2016, the number of births in China increased following its landmark decision to end the country's controversial one-child policy and allow all parents to have 2 children. And while nearly half of the 17.86 million births last year were second children, the increase was much smaller than officials and experts expected. Bill Ide went out on the streets of Beijing to learn more about the policy's impact.
Hohai Lake in central Beijing is a popular place for families to have fun during the holidays. And on a cold winter day, a good place to gauge how the public is warming up to the new 2-child policy. Many we spoke with already had a second child or wanted to have another, but the cost of raising a child in China is a big obstacle for many. One man, surnamed Liu, says he and his wife considered having a second child, but felt the burden was too much to bear. Families in China spend as much as $1,000 to $2,000 each month on extracurricular classes.
Wish we could have a second child. One child on his own is too lonely. It would be better to have 2 children.
Education and activities are not the only expenses, says James King.
Of course, there's also travel overseas, which is very expensive. We try to travel at least once a year.
James and his wife Lucy, who have a second child, say the benefits outweigh the cost, but add that each family's situation is different.
In the future, a child must deal with 4 elderly parents, but having a brother or sister can make it easier to divide up those responsibilities.
Despite its massive population, China faces a growing demographic problem: aging. Its working population is shrinking as the number of pensioners increases rapidly. Starting next year, there is likely to be a persistent decrease in the number of children being born, experts say, as the number of women eligible to have a second child will begin to shrink as more fill their quota. For some, even having children is questionable. By a young single man who works in the hotel industry in Beijing has 2 older sisters.
Life is very stressful. If I was to have a child, 1 would be enough. Either a boy or girl would be fine.
Like many of its Asian neighbors, China has a low fertility rate. And so far, the government has offered few incentives to encourage more births, aside from ending its one-child policy. And because of that, some critics say the policy shift may be too little too late.